Chapter 280 to 283. You have to get your priorities straight, whether you join Umbu Black Ops, whether you join the Root Subdivision, or whether you join Konoha Military Police Force, these are all just some means to fulfill one goal, and you have to understand what is that one goal. What do you want to be able to do with either of these identities? Asked Kuroto. After hearing Kuroto's words, Itachi fell into deep thought. Compared to original story, in this verse, even if he had to go through most of those traumatizing experiences from early childhood, Itachi here is a bit less darkened. This is because Itachi's genin teammates were not killed by Obito, and the reason he awakened the Sharingan was also not under the stimulation of someone's death. Although Itachi awakened his Sharingan a bit earlier compared to the original story, the emotional impact it had on him was not as severe as it had in the original story. Moreover, Obito's attention was directed towards Shinichi, thus there has been no interaction between Itachi and Obito so far. And the news of him awakening the Sharingan at such a young age was also not known to many, so Itachi was not subjected to so much pressure. So compared to the original story, Itachi here is a bit more cheerful. Kuroto is not very sure whether Itachi's strength is the same or different, but it doesn't really matter, because who are we talking about here? Uchiha Itachi, this name alone speaks everything. Looking at Itachi's tangled expression, Kuroto sighed. Members of the Uchiha clan are always the extreme type. Be that Madara, Obito, Shisui, Shinichi, and now Itachi. Perhaps the term moderate doesn't match with the roots of the Uchiha clansmen. After a while of thinking, Itachi seemed to have finally reached some kind of determination, and said sincerely, Kuroto-san, I want to protect my family, my clan, and the village I have grown up in. Now it was Kuroto's turn to be silent because, from the way Itachi has spoken, it seems as if he wants to join Amatsukami. In this regard, Kuroto doesn't really have any reason to refuse. Because Kuroto himself has wanted to recruit Itachi into Amatsukami. With Itachi's extraordinary talent, it is only a matter of time when he grows into an extremely strong shinobi, so the addition of Itachi will greatly strengthen Amatsukami, and also free Kuroto and Shisui with many things. But of course, Kuroto isn't going to make this so easy for Itachi, so after a while of thinking, Kuroto shook his head and said, currently you are not strong enough to get involved in such matters. Itachi was a bit disappointed. I am sorry, I was a bit reckless. There are not many opportunities when you can talk to Itachi in such a way, so after smiling a little, Kuroto returned to his serious look and said, Itachi, you don't need to be discouraged. Since you want to join Amatsukami, then I am going to arrange a test for you. If you are able to pass that test, then I will reconsider your request. An assessment? Itachi perked up, and he nodded with a smile. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, Kuroto-san. I will do my best to not disappoint your expectations. Kuroto nodded and casually said, you should understand that with the kind of work Amatsukami has been doing, not just anyone can enter our organization. A minimum level of strength is necessary, otherwise rather than help, you might even become a burden, which is something we can't afford to have. Itachi nodded. I will make sure to keep that in mind. With that out of the way, the relationship between Kuroto and Itachi improved quite a bit, and using this opportunity, Kuroto decided to ask Itachi a question that he has wanted to know for a while now. Itachi, have you ever heard or seen any information about Sword of Tatsuka and Yada Mirror? Itachi thought a little, then shook his head. I am sorry, but this is the first time I have ever heard about either of the two terms. Kuroto rubbed his chin thoughtfully. So Itachi of this period was unaware of those two artifacts. Is it possible that he learned about them on the night of the Uchiha massacre, or probably after that? Or maybe my other guess. Kuroto has been searching for any possible clues about the two artifacts, Sword of Tatsuka and Yada Mirror, for a while now, but unfortunately, he hasn't found anything worth yet. So Kuroto's search has been fruitless. There was also a time when Kuroto started to think that Sword of Tatsuka and Yada Mirror might just be exclusive techniques of Itachi's Susanoo. But after Kuroto personally used Susanoo, he understood that that's not the case. And the fact that Orochimaru and Zetsu are aware of what these two artifacts are, solidifies this conclusion. When he thought of Kuroto even created an absurd theory that doesn't sound too absurd if you think about it. In the original story, Uzumaki Naruto, the reincarnation of Otsutsuki Azura, had the protection of Kyubi, as well as the protection of Konohagakure with him, so his safety in a way, was assured. The reason is that, even if Kyubi did not accept Naruto at the time, he would still protect Naruto, because if Naruto dies then he dies as well. So Naruto's safety was not that big of an issue, and he was allowed to grow up safely. But that was not the case with Sasuke, the reincarnation of Otsutsuki Indra. With the massacre of the Uchiha clan, Itachi was the only person alive who was protecting Sasuke. But compared to Kyubi, and the entire Konoha, Itachi was obviously much weaker, not to mention his terminal illness. So overall Sasuke's safety was not assured. Perhaps, for this reason, Rikudo Sennin somehow guided Itachi to obtain these two artifacts, making Itachi Susanoo almost invincible, to ensure that Sasuke can safely grow up. After all, the whereabouts of Sword of Tatsuka and Yata Mirror may have been secrets for ordinary shinobi, but for Rikudo Sennin, who has been watching over the shinobi world for centuries, they are no secret at all. Although the chances of this theory being correct are too low, if it is correct then finding Sword of Tatsuka and Yata Mirror might in fact be more difficult now. Because Kuroto is not going to let the Uchiha clan be destroyed, so protection will remain for the reincarnation of Otsutsuki Indra, so Rikudo Sennin has no reason to guide Itachi. As for the reason why Rikudo Sennin wants to ensure the safety of Naruto and Sasuke, there are two reasons. First is that Rikudo Sennin is possibly worried about the threat of the Otsutsuki clan, which obviously includes his mother. The second reason is that he, himself is a father, as simple as that. And to be perfectly honest, Kuroto doesn't really care if he does not get those two artifacts. What he is worried about is that those two artifacts must not fall into the hands of the enemy, because if they did, then trouble will be too much, as there is really no explanation of the extent of the abilities that those two artifacts have. As such, Kuroto really cares about the possible locations of those two artifacts. Sigh, it seems that it will take some time. Sighing slightly, Kuroto shook his head, and went on to continue his discussion with Itachi, about several other matters. Next day. According to the map given to him by Kuroto, Itachi came to the location marked on the map. The location is an extremely dense forest, outside Konoha. And Itachi obviously came alone. Keeping a close watch of his surrounding, Itachi glanced towards the sun and thought, Kuroto-san hasn't arrived yet? I don't know who will assess me, will it be Kuroto-san? Or Shisui-san? Or maybe some other member of Amatsukami? While Itachi was considering many things, the person calmly walked towards him from the other end of the forest. The alert Itachi was immediately ready for battle, but he was still patient enough to observe the person. He noticed that the person who walked over had the Homusubi-specific mask and cloak. Itachi noticed the person walking towards him dressed as Homusubi, and he was surprised a little, but this surprise did not affect Itachi's reaction and he immediately activated his Sharingan. As his black eyes turned scarlet with 3 black tomo spinning inside, Itachi tried to see through the guise of this person. But as he observed, Itachi frowned because he was unable to see past the guise of the opposite person, not to mention seeing through the guise. Even determining the opposite party's gender was difficult for him. For a moment the person dressed as Homusubi seemed a woman, but at the very next moment the person appeared to be a male, giving off an inexplicable sense of mystery. Facing this person, Itachi did not drop his guard even if he seemed to be a member of Amatsukami, and asked cautiously, "You are?" The party did not care about Itachi's cautious tone, but asked indifferently, "You are Uchiha Itachi?" Itachi nodded without relaxing his guard. The recent disappearance of Uchiha Hiragi has again realized the people of Konoha that the danger that the Uchiha shinobi are in. Just imagine, if an elite shinobi who has already awakened the 3 Tomo Sharingan, and has years of experience disappear overnight without leaving even a single clue, then that is a big reason for worry and fear. It just implies that even if you are an elite jonin, you are not safe. Therefore, Itachi is especially careful, considering the importance of his identity, and the impact his disappearance can cause. If not for his trust in Kuroto-san, and Shisui-san's judgment, Itachi would have definitely not come to such an isolated and dense part of the forest, more so without informing anyone in the clan or the village. But even if Itachi trusts Kuroto-san, it does not mean that the person standing in front of him would be trusted by him just because she seems to be a member of Amatsukami. He or maybe she. Whatever the gender of this person is, said Uchiha Itachi, you can call me Ho for now. I will be your proctor during your assessment until we know whether your recruitment is confirmed. If you are recruited into the organization, then you will be in my subdivision, and you will bear the title of Homusubi. This person, Ho, was obviously Hyuga Kuroto controlling the Uchiha Tsukihai clone. Fighting is one of the best methods for soul adaptation, and Itachi is a very good sparring partner, so Kuroto would obviously not let this opportunity go to waste. Itachi considered the words of Ho a little and then said, "Doesn't the organization already have a Homusubi?" Because Itachi was still not sure about the other party's identity, as such Itachi arranged his words to not give out Shirsue's name. What makes you think that there can only be one Homusubi? After a pause, Ho continued, Uchiha Shirsue is Homusubi, but Homusubi is not Uchiha Shirsue. Seeing that Ho mentioned Shirsue's name, Itachi relaxed his guard a little, but only a little, and asked doubtfully, if that is the case, then how many homusubi are there in the organization? Ho shrugged. If you count on the basis of the minimum qualification, then there are 2 homusubi in the organization as of yet. As for the future, perhaps there will be a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, and so on. In short, there is no limit. As long as the candidate meets the minimum requirements, he is eligible to be a candidate to bear the title of homusubi. Itachi was surprised, and then asked curiously, and what is the minimum standard requirement? Ho laughed a little and said, the minimum requirement is to have awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan. What? Even if it was calm and collected Itachi, he couldn't help but exclaim in shock upon learning the minimum standard. Must have awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan to bear the title of homusubi? As far as Itachi knows, currently, there are only 3 people who have awakened the Manjikyu Sharingan. One is Shisui, the second is Shinichi, and the third is probably this person standing before him. And that's what's more shocking, the ocular power Manjikyu Sharingan represents the peak level of what an Uchiha can awaken, and once an Uchiha does awaken Manjikyu Sharingan, he will become the focus of all attention as he is considered a great threat. And Itachi is more clear about this than anyone else. Never in his dream would Itachi have thought that to become a full-fledged member of Amatsukami, he must have Manjikyu Sharingan, and this surprise was clearly evident on his face. Seeing Itachi's surprised look, Ho asked in a confused tone, what's so strange about this? Itachi scowled, are you mocking me? The top-level ocular power that an Uchiha shinobi can have is the bare minimum standard that a homusubi must have. If that's not a joke, then what is? This is pure bullshit, something that Itachi is completely unwilling to accept. Seeing Itachi's unbelievable look, Ho sighed, and then deactivated the seals around the eye part of the mask. With the eyes now clearly visible, Ho activated the Sharingan, which soon turned into something different. It was the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Looking at the eye pattern, Itachi wasn't much surprised, as he probably expected the other party to have it, but was curious about something and asked, your Manjikyu Sharingan is different from Shisui-san's? Ho nodded, and explained, yes, what I have is called the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. It's a higher level of ocular power compared to ordinary Manjikyu Sharingan that Uchiha Shisui possesses, so you see, I am the leader of Homusubi subdivision. As Ho spoke, suddenly the basic ribcage Susanoo appeared around Ho. Looking at the golden-orange Susanoo ribcage, Itachi muttered, so it really was you who helped clear rumors about Shisui-san being Homusubi? Muttered Itachi. Ho nodded as the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan was deactivated, and the basic Susanoo disappeared. Itachi asked at this moment, but you mentioned the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan? I have never heard of this. And you also mentioned it to be a higher level of ocular power? Ho said, yes, but now is not the time to discuss this, just know that Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is a higher level of ocular power that an Uchiha can have. You will learn about all these things in the future. For now, focus on the matter at hand. To become a member of Amatsukami, you must have Manjikyu Sharingan. Itachi was a little frustrated and asked, is it really that difficult to join Amatsukami as a formal member? Ho nodded, it's difficult indeed. Having a Manjikyu Sharingan is just a threshold. If you are not a shinobi who stands at peak level combat power, that is, at the level of a Kage, or better yet, higher than a Kage, then you would be a burden to the organization. And you clearly haven't reached that level yet. But now you might be wondering why are you here then? So to answer your question, it's potential. You have potential Uchiha Itachi, and therefore, you will undergo training. Once you fulfilled the minimum standard, you will become a full-fledged member of Amatsukami. After hearing Ho's words, Itachi eased a little. Given the reputation of Amatsukami, it doesn't sound so strange if he thinks about it. And Itachi was able to accept the minimum standard requirement that he must have. And looking at the person standing in front of him, many of Itachi's doubts were also cleared. Prior to this, Itachi really wondered who was the homusubi who fought Shisui at the eastern peak of Tajinbo mountain range. After all, many people including his father Uchiha Fugaku had witnessed the scene of 2 Susanoo clashed against one another at that time, so Itachi always wondered just who is the other individual in Amatsukami who also possesses Manjikyu Sharingan. Now that there was Ho in front of him, Itachi did not need to wonder anymore. Well, putting all his thoughts aside, Itachi glanced at the opposite person and said, in that case, I am grateful Ho-san. In order to save the Uchiha clan and protect the village, I will work my hardest to not be a burden. Ho nodded and said, you have talent, no doubt about it. Now let's see how much of your talent come to fruition. With those words, both Itachi and Ho took their respective battle stance. Konoha Cemetery. Hatake Kakashi stared at the memorial monument in front of him, and spoke, Minato-sensei, our Team 11 is responsible for ensuring the safety of your child. I assure you that I will protect him at all cost, let him follow your footsteps to become a shinobi you can be proud of. There are few things that interest Hatake Kakashi, so in his free time, he would generally come to the Konoha cemetery to have some idle talks with his friends Obito and Rin, as well as his Jonin-sensei, Namikaze Minato. Sometimes, Kakashi can even spend his entire day here in a dazed state. When he is here, Kakashi's vigilance is a bit less, and sometimes he is unable to notice the other person who comes to the Konoha cemetery similar to him. And that person is none other than the masked man, who was watching him even now, but Kakashi did not notice this. When the masked man who was silently watching Hatake Kakashi heard Kakashi's words, he narrowed his eyes and thought, is Team 11 responsible for protecting Uzumaki Naruto now? This is a good opportunity. Under the Homusubi mask, Ho's lips arched in a smirk. Defeating Itachi is not a difficult task for Ho, but Ho still feels a certain sense of accomplishment that is difficult to understand. After all, the person Ho defeated is the Uchiha Itachi, the very same Uchiha Itachi who was undefeated in the entire Naruto series. While Ho was feeling a certain sense of accomplishment that inflated Ho's ego, a certain change happened that suddenly caught Ho by surprise, and Ho's smile froze halfway. This. Caw. 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 Almost at the same moment that Ho noticed, Itachi who was pinned to the tree trunk by Ho broke into many crows and scattered all over the battlefield. Crow clone technique! Exclaimed Ho. And as soon as countless crows scattered over the battlefield, Ho noticed from the corner of her viewing range that so many metal wires have suddenly appeared all over the battlefield. Looking at the kunai and shuriken that were shot towards her, Ho understood that she has fallen into the trap set up by Itachi. With just one look, Ho was able to judge that retreat was not an option now. Looking at the shuriken and kunai that were about to impale on her, Ho had a bitter smile and can't help but think, sigh, why am I not surprised by this development? And is this what they call instant karma? This was the last thought of Ho as the rain of shuriken and kunai impaled on Ho, severing her left arm and as well as several injuries all over. As the shuriken and kunai approached Ho-san, Itachi who was hiding somewhere else can't help but have sweat flowed down his temple in expectation and nervousness. But seeing the shuriken and kunai actually impaling Ho, Itachi was shocked. Ho possesses Manjikyu Sharingan, so blocking this rain of shuriken and kunai shouldn't have been any problem to Ho. Itachi did not expect that not only did Ho not use Susanoo to block, but Ho also did not even try to dodge, and Itachi instantly knew that something was wrong. His guess was only confirmed when the body that was impaled by many shuriken and kunai, including the left hand that lied on the ground, broke into countless crows. Caw. 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 Itachi was obviously surprised. This is crow clone technique. But Itachi did not have the time to be shocked, as the crows that flew out of the crow clone of Ho started a battle with the crows that flew out of Itachi's crow clone technique, and Itachi was more surprised to see that the number of crows kept increasing and increasing, covering the entire daylight sky. They even surrounded him, obscuring his field of vision. No matter how much Itachi tried to eliminate these crows, the previous ones disappeared in a poof of white smoke, but at the very same instant, more crows appeared. No, this is not just crow clone technique, muttered Itachi while killing the crows that were continuously attacking him. You are right, Uchiha Itachi, this is not just crow clone technique, this is a combination technique of the crow clone technique and scattering thousand crows technique. Just as he heard this sudden bewitching voice next to his left ear, all the crows that surrounded him and obscured the sky disappeared, and Itachi was also frozen on his spot. He couldn't move, because if he did, his entire body would be mutilated into many pieces. It's my loss, Itachi said while lowering his head in defeat. Itachi is still a kid, and it took all his skills and experience to confront Ho up to here, so he didn't have any more energy left, and as soon as the metal wires were removed by Ho, Itachi collapsed to the ground. Looking at Itachi's disappointed face, Ho said, no need to beat yourself over it, you were able to defeat my crow clone, you are already very good, and you will only get better after your training is completed. Ho's words were of course a bit sentimental. Compared to Itachi, when Kuroto was at this age, Kuroto wasn't even able to confront a Chunin on an equal ground, much less confronting such strong individuals like Homusubi. So Itachi's potential is very high, as long as he doesn't go through what he did in the original Naruto story, and that's obviously not going to happen because the path Itachi has chosen here is different. After resting for a while, Itachi said, "Ho-san, you are also a member of the Uchiha clan, aren't you? But if that's the case, why do I feel like I have never seen you within the clan?" Based on the combat style of Ho, Itachi has figured this out. Ho said, "You don't need to worry about this detail for now." Itachi was silent and nodded after thinking a little. Ho said again, "Alright, today's assessment ends here. I needed to have some understanding of your abilities to formulate plans for your formal training. We will begin your official training from tomorrow. Make sure to come here tomorrow around the same time. The location of your training area will keep changing as we can't stay in a location for more than once, so make sure to follow up on the information I will be sending you." Itachi nodded, "Thank you very much, Ho-san." Ho nodded and said, "I am sure that you understand this already, but you have to make sure that not even a single soul discovers where you are going or coming from, not even Shursui for that matter, otherwise you will directly be disqualified. Make sure to always keep that in mind. Also, make sure to always be on guard against Shimura Danzo and Orochimaru. There is a high possibility that either of them might target you, understand? Danzo-sama and Orochimaru-san." Itachi thought about Ho's words a little, and then immediately nodded, "I understand." After explaining a few more key points to Itachi, both of them separated. While Itachi returned to the village, Ho went on to do whatever things that a member of Amatsukami has to do. Along the return journey, Itachi analyzed the battle he had with Ho, and the measures he can take the next time, and before he knew it, Itachi had already returned home. Entering his home, Sasuke greeted him, "Ni-san, where did you go today?" Itachi said with a gentle smile, "I went out to train Sasuke." Itachi's cheek inflated in a cute pout, "You are so cunning, Nii-san, you always sneak away to train alone or with Shirsu Nii-san, you don't take me with you, humph." Itachi shook his head helplessly and started to remove his shinobi sandals. Sasuke put both of his hands on Itachi's back and said with a complaining look, "It's so boring to play around with those kids, they are not even half as good as I am, Nii-san, the next time you go out to train will you take me with you?" Itachi, who has already removed his shinobi sandals, beckoned Sasuke to come closer to him. Sasuke was joyful and quickly moved his head a little closer. As Sasuke's head approached for a possible hug, Itachi flicked Sasuke's forehead and said, "Not now, Sasuke, maybe some other time." After that, Itachi got up and walked towards the inner courtyard, his face thoughtful as before, as if he was deeply considering some things, while Sasuke pouted as he rubbed his forehead. And 1 month passed. In this 1 month, Itachi had to follow intensive training, nothing he wasn't already used to. The most benefit Itachi had was in his taijutsu, even if he can perfectly replicate most taijutsu styles because of his Sharingan, practicing them and understanding them at a deeper level still makes up a large difference. So, Itachi's taijutsu progressed most with his regular training and confrontations with Ho. The speed at which Itachi was growing was so fast that even Kuroto was highly surprised, but when he thought that the person she thinking about is Uchiha Itachi, then there was nothing more to think about. In addition to training Itachi, Kuroto was also vigilant against the possible chaos that Hiruko might cause. But to Kuroto's surprise, there were no movements from Hiruko's side, as if he doesn't plan to attack Konoha or any other shinobi villages at all, and this was a cause of both confusion and worry for Kuroto. Shaking his head helplessly, Kuroto, who has just finished his umbu duties for the day, was returning to his home. It was another calm and peaceful night, a bit too peaceful, and a bit chilly. The sun had long set, and the moon was over the head, the street lights had already lit, illuminating the streets. Casually walking on the street, Kuroto thought, either Nagato managed to tone down Hiruko, or there is something wrong with Hiruko's state, and the Kekkei Genkais he has absorbed, or maybe Obito is planning something, otherwise it is difficult to imagine that Hiruko will be silent for so long. But Kuroto is going to bet on the last possible scenario. Because Kuroto intuitively feels that something big is about to happen, and Hiruko will definitely be part of that something big, otherwise it is practically impossible to stop him for so long. Walking to his home, Kuroto noticed an umbu shinobi along with 2 children waiting at the gate of his house. Kuroto frowned, more so when he noticed who the 2 children are. Walking closer to the house, Kuroto asked, "Huh? Cheyenne-chan, what are you doing in Konoha?" As soon as Cheyenne was Kuroto, she immediately rushed towards him while crying, "Kuroto Onaikan, please save, my Oka-san." In an underground laboratory in the land of sound. Orochimaru leaned on a chair, observing Haku with a sharp gaze. After a long while of silence, Orochimaru smiled softly and spoke, "Haku, welcome back." Although Orochimaru's smile creeps out most people who see him for the first time, Haku was very used to it, and spoke in a slightly guilty tone, "I am sorry, I worried you, Orochimaru-sama." Orochimaru nodded and asked casually, "How was your experience staying in Konoha?" Haku thought a little and said, "Well, Kuroto-sama was very caring of me." "Was he?" Orochimaru muttered, and then asked curiously, "What did you do while you stayed in Konoha?" Haku recalled all the things and then spoke, "There is not much I did there. Kuroto-sama asked me to perform water release and ice release techniques, then he also taught me several water ninjutsu, as well as taijutsu, and then, that's it." Orochimaru frowned, "Just this?" Haku thought more and spoke, "By the way, Kuroto-sama also extracted some of my cells, and he also brought a pet rabbit for me." "Oh." Orochimaru muttered, No wonder Kuroto-kun asked for cell fusion research from me. It turns out that he has also started conducting human experiments." With what Haku said, coupled with his information exchange with Kuroto, Orochimaru understood that Kuroto has also started to conduct human experimentations. It's just that Orochimaru lacks the intelligence about the field that Kuroto is going after, so he can't accurately judge the directions of Kuroto's experiments. But that did not matter so much, because these experiments must be related to the Hyuga clan's genetics. After all, those were what Kuroto was studying before Orochimaru left Konoha. "Kuroto-kun abandoned the laboratory I left him. It must mean that he has opened up a secret laboratory somewhere else. It seems that Kuroto-kun doesn't want his research to be known by others. As long as I find his secret laboratory, perhaps I might be able to find something interesting." Thinking of this, Orochimaru no longer cared about Haku and told him, "Okay, you can go now. Your room is still the same as before, so you can continue to use it." "Yes." Haku responded with a courteous bow and went out. Just before Haku responded, he had actually suddenly remembered the strange technique that Kuroto used on him, but because Haku didn't really understand it in detail and coupled with the fact Orochimaru didn't seem to be interested to listen to him anymore, so Haku did not speak anything further about the matter that he, himself, didn't really understand. After Haku went outside, Kabuto came inside the laboratory. "Orochimaru-sama, there is news from Shino." "What did the message say?" asked Orochimaru with an eager gaze. Kabuto pushed his glasses as he spoke. "Shino said that the collaboration will have to wait for about a month. Currently, he is involved in something, but you needn't worry, he will approach you when the opportunity is right." "Me and worry?" Orochimaru spoke with a sullen look, but soon licked his lips and spoke with a smile. "Shino, is he going to start his plans of creating the Rabi too?" With Hyuga Kuroto's successful example, many of Orochimaru's preconceptions have changed. So now Orochimaru fully understands that as long as Shino is able to find a large enough chakra source, creating an artificial bijou, which is the Rabi in Shino's words, is very much plausible. Although the stability is still a bit questionable, the probability of success clearly outweighs the chances of failure. As such, Orochimaru also has some expectations. If Shino's Rabi project also results in a success, then maybe Orochimaru will also think of creating an artificial bijou. Thinking of the future prospects, Orochimaru muttered, "I suppose I can wait another month or so." Kabuto nodded and then asked respectfully, "Orochimaru-sama, what are you going to do with Yuki Haku?" Kabuto was obviously worried that Yuki Haku has been brainwashed by Hyuga Kuroto, making Haku a spy of Hyuga Kuroto, so maybe they would have to dispose of him. After all, finding Yuki Haku was too easy. As long as you know the location of that laboratory, anyone can find Haku. Orochimaru groaned a little and then said, "Monitor Haku's physical, mental and spiritual state, then I will plant the cursed seal to him." Cursed seals of heaven and earth are the latest kenjutsu that Orochimaru has developed. The idea comes from Yugo's special ability to absorb nature chakra. Orochimaru was obviously interested in this special ability, and after careful research and countless experiments, Orochimaru finally combined that ability with some of the techniques of Ryuchi Cave and developed several cursed seals, including the cursed seal of heaven, earth, forest, and sea. After developing these cursed seal, Orochimaru has so many fantastic ideas and began many new kinds of research. One of his attempts incorporate his own chakra and part of his soul with the cursed seal and inject that incorporated part into others using the cursed seals. Once this project succeeds, all the ninjas carrying the cursed seal will become Orochimaru's respawn points. And as long as even a single one of those respawn points is alive in the shinobi world, then Orochimaru can come back to life. Even if his entire body is destroyed, he will no longer have to fear death for the time being. Back to Itachi's ongoing training session. Ding! Ding! A series of metal collision sounds can be heard resounding in the dense forest. Ho's body was fast, extremely fast, and the katana carried by Ho danced just as Ho's intentions, and anything within the range of the katana's limit was not spared. Itachi was constantly pressured by Ho, and even after relying on the 3-tomo Sharingan, it was very difficult for him to keep up with Ho. But this type of training was also working very well, as Itachi was constantly adapting to the pressure by the virtue of his intelligence, tricks, and techniques that led Ho sometimes by surprise, giving Itachi enough opportunity to take short breathers in the midst of the battle. After barely dodging Katana's strike again, Itachi leaped on top of Katana's blade and shoved his feet hard in an attempt to kick Ho's face. The moment that Ho took to retreat backward to avoid the sweep, Itachi also leaped backward, distancing himself from Ho. Huff. 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 Itachi gasped heavily. This type of drawn-out battle is not what he is used to, so Itachi must think up countermeasures because the difference in their skills and strength levels have started to become more and more apparent as the battle has progressed. Itachi could clearly feel that even though the opponent follows generally Uchiha techniques, he does not solely rely on them. In fact, it wouldn't be wrong to say that the opponent's fighting style are completely different from any Uchiha shinobi Itachi has ever faced. And strangely enough, there were occasional moves that reminded Itachi of Hyuga-style combat methods, and understanding this, Itachi can't help but think, was Ho trained by Kuroto-san personally? Regardless, he can't continue with this rhythm. Based on whatever he has deduced up to now, Itachi started to formulate a strategy. At this time, Ho said, "I seriously hope that this isn't your best Uchiha Itachi, because if it is, then I have to say that I am much disappointed." Itachi did not speak a word, and he was watching Ho calmly, and after wiping away the traces of sweat, Itachi was ready to go at it again. Since he didn't actually know the content of the assessment, so Itachi was extra prepared, so there was no problem of lack of tools. With both of them again ready to start the next round, a solemn atmosphere covered the forest. At this time both of them performed the body flicker technique. Whoosh! Whoosh! And an extremely high-speed battle broke out between the two. Other than the two, after images flashing, metal clashing, fire raging, could be seen. Ding! 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 After a few seconds of high-speed combat, Ho managed to gain the upper hand. Ho kicked Itachi in the chest, sending him crashing to the tree behind, then instantly flashed and appeared before Itachi, pinning him to the other tree, with the katana's blade stopping just a few short centimeters away, and said, "I suppose that's my win, Uchiha Itachi. If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kaioshin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my Patreon. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Nicholas Berenger, Ben Phillips, Yamatancho, Taco TSK, Yuki, Surge 1301. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.